what you need to know about the cold call rules that take effect later this month. Today I'm diving into the critical updates on cold calling regulation, how these changes significantly impact how you connect with clients and future clients, and it's essential to stay informed and compliant. So stick with me as I break it all down. Here's what we'll cover. The new one-to-one consent rule and how it changes outreach practices, managing consent revocation effectively to avoid penalties, the stricter rules for lead generation, purchase list, updates on using auto dialers and pre-recorded messages, and a refresher on the ever so popular do not call list compliance. And finally, what these changes don't impact, which is email marketing. Let's dive right. So what is the one-to-one consent? What it means is you need specific consent from individuals for you to call, text, or send pre-recorded messages. Now before, you have blanket permissions like, hey, anybody can call me, and that was fine. But now the consent must be explicitly tied to you and your business. Now, for example, if you're using auto dialers or sending, or sending pre-recorded messages, ensure that you have direct written consent. Now, the easy consent revocation and what that clients can opt out using any method via text, email, phone call, and you must honor that request within 10 business days. Now, before it was easier to miss or ignore these opt-out requests, but now you must track them and act on these revocations quickly. Now, here's a tip. Create a reliable system. Hey, CRM, there you go. Now, tie the rules for lead generation and what it means. Leads must give explicit permission for you and your business to contact. Before, when you purchase lists from like Zillow, Realtor.com, that would come with a general interested buyer permission. But now, if they didn't agree to your outreach specifically, you're not allowed to contact. So for example, when you're buying leads, always verify consent is tied to you and your business. Now, restrictions on auto dialers and pre-recorded messages, really? These tools are off limits, again, without express written consent from the consumer. So before you had those broad permissions, but now, manual dialing is the key, and it's the safer option. So unless you have clear legal permission, get that rotary phone out. Now, do not call as compliance. We all know what the DNC is. We all know what it means. It means don't call unless you meet a few specific exceptions. Now, before the rules existed, but let's just say enforcement was a little not so tough. But now, the fines range from $500 to $1,500 per call. Now, for example, FSBOs or expires, you can still manually call if the purpose isn't to solicit them for a listing. Like, hey, I want to share your home. I've got a buyer, a real buyer. Now, the good news is email. Email marketing, these changes don't impact it all, but you still must follow the CAN spam rules and adhere to their compliance. Now, how this applies to real estate. FSBOs, calling FSBOs, manually dialing on that rotary phone is fine as long as you're not soliciting for a listing. And if they're on the DNC list, you can call to discuss the property itself, or if you're representing a buyer. For expireds, again, manual calls are allowed, even if they're on the DNC, but the same rules apply as the FSBO. Now, if you've done neighborhood prospecting, circle prospecting, DNC, they're on it, don't call them. Now, these changes are all about respecting people's boundaries and remaining professional. Adjusting our practices now helps us to avoid fines and builds trust with our client. And let's be honest, none of us like these kind of calls anyway, right? You don't answer them, neither do I. So stick to your manual dialing unless you have written consent, and double check to make sure that the people are not on the DNC list before you make those calls. And create a system or use your CRM. That would help you a lot. And work with lead generation companies that prioritize compliance. You, my friend, will stay out of hot water.